TWSN. You ain't heard about us yet, well you better know now, because it's the place that it all goes down.
Hello and welcome everybody to a different type of episode of the TWSN Tailgate Show. As always, I am Matt Levine, joined by my co-host Josh Northcutt, and our pretty regular co-host at this point, Bill Sparks. You know, we're something just came down maybe like an hour, maybe or so ago. Do you guys have any idea what that is? Like, I was a little confused, but Bill, do you know?
I think there's. Yeah, I think there was.
I don't have ESPN anymore because YouTube TV decided to cut everything, so I couldn't see what was going on. So, I mean, I don't know what happened, guys. I really don't. So, yeah, I don't. But in all seriousness, we are here to break down the first edition of the college football playoff rankings. We are so excited to do this. We're just going to be recapping everything, kind of going over some generic ideas and things that's kind of stuck out to us because, quite frankly, there's a lot to talk about. Let's get right into it, guys, because we have a lot to discuss, and quite honestly, we have questions. I'm going to start with you, Bill. Since you know you have been one of the better pickers here over the last few weeks since you fully joined the show, what really stuck out to you, or what do you make of this first edition of the rankings?
So I'm gonna be a little bit on the shock side, but I think they got 90% of this right. Like when you look at these teams, a lot of these names are spot on, are right. You know, when we do our kind of group aggregate, when we make our own bracket, which you'll kind of see what our updated is on Thursday's show. 10 of these 12 teams I had. The big one that's the sticking point for me is Notre Dame, and I understand why Notre Dame is in, because you have to follow the money. It's a big time program. Their two losses were to Texas A&M, who's third, and Miami, who's 18th, and it was the first 2 weeks of the season. But I think if you take that aspect out of it, and then you also take out the aspect of the 11 and 12 seed being the ACC champion right now in Virginia, and then the G5 in Memphis, who's not even in the top 25, I think this is a pretty well set bracket so far. Josh, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, no, before we got on air, me and you were talking about it, and when they gave us the compliment for the bracket, I have a hard time arguing. Again, like you said, Notre Dame's the only really complaint. But I get why it is, just like Texas being, was it number 11 just on the outside looking in? They'll have a chance to play themselves in, or they'll go home when they play Georgia. I think it's next week. So they're in a win or go home situation come next week. But besides that, I thought it was all right. Major complaint. And I won't even go to complaint. I'll give them a compliment. Iowa being in the top 25, very well deserved. We talked about it last week when I said they might be the fourth best team in the Big Ten. Their only losses on the year were to Indiana by 5. Their starting quarterback got hurt in the second half of the quarter, and he has looked really good since that game. And then their other loss was early in the year to Iowa State on a field goal. That game's always a coin flip toss-up, so you never know what's going to happen. And then also complimenting Matt's sleeper pick in the ACC, Pittsburgh, now being in this top 25. I think well-deserved because they have been playing a lot better since making the change to that freshman quarterback. They also have everything right in front of them. They've got Miami, they've got Georgia Tech, and they've got Notre Dame. You win those 3 games, you're in. Plain and simple.
The dream is alive for Pittsburgh, and I did not expect this a few weeks ago after some of their performances. But they made the switch, as you talked about, and they've looked pretty damn good. What do you guys think about Memphis? You know, we've been talking about this all year about the group of 5 schools. Do you think Memphis is the one that deserves to be in here right now, or do you think there's another team that should have been placed where Memphis is? Josh, I'm going to go to you because you have been all on these group of 5 teams all year long.
Yeah, so I had Memphis in my article today when I wrote about it. You can find up on TWSN, which is kind of asking about the questions of what we were going to find out. They are far and above beyond North Texas when it comes to, I believe it was, maybe strength of schedule was near. No, they're only like 4 off on strength of schedule. I'll take that back. My deciding factor on Memphis over North Texas was the USF game. Mutual team. They both played them. North Texas got smacked. Memphis came back and beat them. I know everybody's darling Navy. We all want to see it. We all want to believe it. They don't belong above Memphis after last week. So my only two were Memphis and North Texas. But I think the team we need to keep an eye on, if anybody's going to not come from the AAC, is James Madison. Their only loss on the year, I believe, was to Louisville. And it wasn't a blowout. It was pretty darn close. So if the AAC continues to beat up on each other, keep an eye on James Madison and steal that last G5 spot. Bill, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. For me, I had North Texas in, and I see where you're coming from with that mutual opponent in South Florida. But for me, when I'm looking at the best win, while Memphis's best win is that South Florida game, they only won that game by 3 points, whereas North Texas, their best win arguably just came from a Navy game that they only won by 14, but they significantly outclassed a Navy team that should be much higher than what they are. And I think that spot is going to come down to one of these. Whoever wins the American is going to win that 12 spot. I think that there's no way around that. It's either a North Texas, it's a Memphis, or it's Navy. I think it's got to be one of those three teams, barring some other worldly thing happening right now. You know, could you see a James Madison? I could, but if it comes down to James Madison or Navy or North Texas, I gotta lean North Texas or Navy or even Memphis over James Madison. But I like the James Madison call. But I said this a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to continue to reiterate it. We have to revisit this at the end of this playoff run and not give a group of 5 team an automatic berth just to say we give them an automatic berth. Because let's be honest, whether it's Memphis, whether it's North Texas, whether it's Navy, whoever ends up as that 12 seed is going to be at a significant disadvantage going up against a 5 seed, because that 5 seed could be Georgia, could be Alabama, could be Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. It's just completely unnecessary to give someone an automatic berth when they haven't proved it, especially right now. Memphis didn't even make the top 25, but they're automatically in because they won the American. And I understand prioritizing wanting to win your conference, but at a certain point, what do we say? How do we say, yes, you won your conference, that's great, but your resume just doesn't match up to make the final 12?
I think that is a fair. I was going to bring that up as well, because there's going to be a team that likely deserves to be in that's not going to be in because of that. For instance, if you look at the way that just the full 25 teams, right, came in, you could make the case for a bunch of these teams. I mean, you got Utah at 13. I mean, they just obliterated Cincinnati last weekend. You know, Louisville, who has one loss in the year, to Virginia, right?
Yep.
You can make a case for them. Georgia Tech, one loss now. They're at Michigan. Michigan has everything in front of them. Same with USC, everything in front of them. So, but because of the guaranteed spot, one of these teams is going to miss out. I wanted to ask you guys this.
I'm going to answer it. By the way, it's going to be Utah. It's going to be Utah who misses out if they win out, because they're not going to be in the Big 12 championship, which means BYU or Texas Tech have to stay above them. So it's either Utah misses out, or even worse nightmare for the Big 12, the loser of the BYU Texas Tech game in a possible rematch would miss out.
Yeah.
The committee, you could see by this, the committee is taking the head-to-head into consideration this year.
Yes.
Just based off of everything that they have done in this first bit of rankings. I mean, look at the Louisville-Virginia matchup right there. Virginia goes on the road, beats Louisville. Now they're technically in the first edition. You can make the case that Louisville has played better than them since then, but because they beat them. The same thing goes with Memphis and North Texas. I mean, they didn't play each other, obviously, but like, I'm talking about the South Florida game, like just the mutual opponent. Like they're looking at it in this way, and this is going to be really interesting, especially down the stretch of the season. I mean, the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, they all are going to beat up on each other over the next few weeks. USC is playing Oregon in a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia plays Texas, as you know, we've talked about. Michigan obviously plays Ohio State. These games are going to affect everything, and the committee has now set the precedent that we have to look for kind of going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think the big thing too that was a little shocking to me was Oregon as the 9 seed. I understand they put weight on the head-to-head losses, just like you talked about, Matt. Obviously, you have Notre Dame losing to Miami and Texas A&M, ends up at the 10 spot. Oregon, their lone loss is to Indiana, and Indiana came into Autzen and caused that loss. I just don't see a reason why Oregon should be that low. But if I'm an Oregon Duck fan right now, after hearing Mac Rhodes talk about their decision making, I'm severely concerned for this week because you're now playing in a team in Iowa that you don't match up well against at all. And if you go out there and you don't look good, we may have to have the conversation. There's a possibility Oregon with one loss may not be in the next bracket.
You would think they would drop below like a Notre Dame or a Texas?
I think they would.
I agree. I mean, we've seen the committee loves Texas and they love Notre Dame. We have seen that all year long.
Yeah.
They don't love Oregon. Oregon is not in their favorites at this point. I
Which
don't
is
think
crazy,
it's right
because the 1-2 teams are literally Big Ten, and there's another 5 Big Ten teams in the 25. Which, by the way, props to them getting that right. Or, sorry, 6 teams. I can't do math. Maybe even 7. 6, 7. I can't do math right now. Anyway, it's
6,
late,
7.
all right? I'm old.
6, 7.
But
we're
anyway.
not doing
that. Anyway. Just it's kind of weird, though, because they do have respect for the Big Ten. It's just they're not respecting Oregon, which now makes you wonder what happens in the future of scheduling. Are these teams getting forced hands of, hey, you need to go play a Power 5 team? Because I think that's what's keeping Ohio State number 1 is that Texas matchup.
Yeah, I agree.
Looking at that, I have a question for you guys. Do you believe that they got it right putting Ohio State number 1?
Yes.
Or do you think Indiana should have been number 1 based off of the wins that they have? Beating Iowa, beating Oregon on the road. It's more just curious because I've seen this. I've thought about it. Ohio State's signature win obviously is the Texas game. But I'd argue them beating Texas at home is not as impressive as what Indiana did, having to go on the road into Autzen and win that game.
Yep. I would have had Indiana number 1 over Ohio State because of exactly that. If you're looking at best wins on the Buckeyes schedule, the best win is a Texas win in week 1. Outside of that, maybe Illinois, but obviously Illinois, at the time.
But we saw what Indiana did to Illinois, though.
Exactly. So that kind of defeats it. I would have said if you're going to put in Ohio State number 1, that's going to set the dangerous precedent of we understand what you've done this season, but we're also going to keep in mind of what you've done previously. And if the committee had wanted to say, nope, it is just about this season and this season only, then Indiana should have been the number 1 team because of what they've done this season when you compare best wins.
I mean, that's something we're definitely going to have to watch for going forward. If Ohio State doesn't dominate basically every week, Indiana could easily take over that spot. We've seen them drop teams, even in wins, just drop them down the slot.
What's really interesting is when Ohio State loses their last 2 games of the year to Michigan and then Indiana in the Big Ten championship. Then what happens?
I think you're projecting there right now.
I'm just holding out a little bit of hope, just a little bit.
Are we also sure that the committee is going to take anything that happens in the conference championship into account, or are they going to lock these things in before we get to the conference championship, making that Big 12 potential rematch of BYU, Texas Tech, and the Ohio State, Indiana matchup just null and void?
I think it could be a little bit of both. We've seen it in the past, especially if there are rematches. I think that's going to then give them a chance to reevaluate in the rematch game. Or it also depends on how the games go. For instance, if, let's say Texas Tech, BYU. Let's say Texas Tech blows BYU out, right? But then in the championship game, BYU in the rematch wins by a field goal or something. they're going to have to look at that as, okay, Texas Tech is probably the better team, and they might make an evaluation off of that. So I think it also just depends on how the games kind of go throughout the rest of the season. But we're going to see a lot of parity coming up over the next few weeks. There's going to be a lot coming up. And I don't envy the committee for some of the decisions that they're going to have to make here.
I think it might play itself out for once, right? There's going to be no chaos. It'll just play itself out. We'll figure
It's
it out.
college football. There's never any chaos.
Places. You'll get Alabama, Georgia somehow in the wonderful SEC championship game, and you'll just be able to slot them in. Like, no chaos whatsoever.
Yeah, you say that, and then this week we'll have Mizzou beat Texas A&M and Iowa beat Oregon, and everybody burns their brackets by the middle of next week.
Man, if that happens this weekend, boy, oh boy, will next Tuesday be interesting.
Oh boy!
If Iowa beats Oregon, I think you have a legit case to make that Iowa could easily make the college football playoff.
Where would you move Iowa to? Say it's a close win, typical Iowa fashion. Weird things happen out there in Iowa. Looking at where the bracket is right now, I think I still got. 12 is where I think.
I think I put them 11.
Put Texas and Notre Dame ahead of them, right?
I put them at 11.
I would say 11. I would say the ACC champion goes up to 10.
Yeah,
and Iowa slots in at 11.
Oregon obviously drops out. So
correct.
The Hawkeyes have everything in front of them. We talked about it before, but this team could do some damage. I mean, I talked about it at the beginning of the year. I thought they were a sleeper. Now, did I expect them to look as good as they have? Probably not. I don't know if they're going to beat Oregon, but that's a tough test. But if they can, don't sleep on Iowa. Every few years, Iowa has those years where where do they come from?
I mean,
what happened with them?
I'm telling you, if their quarterback doesn't get hurt, we might be thinking about that Indiana team a little bit differently, because they had them on the ropes when that quarterback got hurt, and they only lost by 5. But what about Vanderbilt, guys? They're there now. They're hanging around. I think. I mean, if I'm looking at this correctly, the ACC winner is going to basically have to be Virginia, Louisville, Georgia Tech, blah, blah, blah. So we got to get them up to number 10 when it comes to Vanderbilt in order to get in. So you're looking at a BYU Tech team who have to play each other. And then you still got Texas having to play Texas A&M. Vanderbilt can play itself in if it wins out. That's what they left open. I don't know if I agree with that after what I watched this weekend. A magical fourth quarter run made that game look close, because besides that, it was BTA done by the Longhorns.
Remember, fraud of the week last week. I'm not saying he was, but you watched 3 quarters of it, and Diego Pavia just didn't look like that guy. Fourth quarter, absolutely, they showed up, but you also have to remember who was off the field in that fourth quarter. Their best defender, Colin Simmons. I agree with you, though. I think the committee left the door open for Texas, Louisville, Vanderbilt, and even Georgia Tech to play their way in. The long shot I would see there would be Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech, but there is a world where we see Georgia Tech. If they win, the big one is going to be that Georgia Tech-Georgia game. If Georgia Tech wins that game, not only could Georgia Tech play their way in, but Georgia could play their way out.
I mean, Georgia's got to beat Texas too, though.
Yeah. That's the thing. Georgia's still got to go through Texas.
There's so much left that I can't wait. But it's nice to at least see what the committee's thinking for once, and we're not just assuming. Yes. That's where I'm at.
Am I crazy for thinking, I touched on it a little bit before we went on, but am I crazy for thinking that the committee gave a small, very small lifeline to Tennessee? Very small.
I think they're too far out, and there's too many teams ahead of them that will have better wins.
But the SEC, a 3-loss SEC, they went out. If they went out and there's some chaos that goes down in the SEC.
I don't think they'd even be the best 3-loss SEC. Texas, I think, would still stay above them. If anything, they give Oklahoma more life.
I think it depends on how Texas plays against Georgia. Because if Georgia just goes out there and beats them, beats them, We saw Tennessee hang with
But then what
Georgia.
if they come back and beat Texas A&M?
But this is what I'm saying. There's so much chaos going around that it could happen. I think Tennessee has a small lifeline because of where they play and what conference they're in. I think the committee gave them that small lifeline.
I think that I see where you're coming from totally. I think the past loss to Oklahoma leaves Tennessee dead in the water because in my eyes, it'll come down to those two, Oklahoma or Tennessee. And the committee's going to say, head to head. We've already seen them put a premium on head to head with Notre Dame. So they're going to say, yeah, Oklahoma won head to head 33-27. So they're going to put Oklahoma in. I think if it comes down to that, where we have a 3-loss team in play, I think it comes to Oklahoma versus Tennessee, and that matchup is going to get Oklahoma in.
Sorry, Vols fans. I tried. I tried to make their day.
So if you had to look outside the furthest back ACC team, because that doesn't count. Like Pittsburgh obviously can put itself in. Actually, could Pittsburgh play itself in if it wins out? And they wouldn't be in the ACC title game.
I think because they still play Notre Dame.
That's what I'm saying. They have the Notre Dame loss,
Georgia
win,
Tech, and Miami.
Florida win, and they have the Georgia Tech win.
If they went out, there would be 3 quality wins in the last 3. They would easily be eligible, in my opinion.
Yeah, easily. I think if Pitt wins that, honestly, if Pitt wins 2 of those games, I think Pitt plays their way in. Because if you say they beat Notre Dame, that's going to kick Notre Dame out of here. And then if you say they beat Georgia Tech, now you're leapfrogging them up into the 16-15 range, which could be high enough if you get some funky business in the ACC.
Which could easily happen. I mean, we've talked about there are so many good teams or teams that can just knock each other off week to week in all conferences, but like the ACC has been insane this year.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still not sure we have heard the last of Miami, Florida, to be completely honest.
I don't think we have either. I also don't think we've heard the last of the Trojans. Granted, I know they're right on the outside looking in, but man.
You get an Iowa win and you get the Oregon win, right?
Oregon,
and Washington this year.
No, they got Iowa, Oregon, and I forget who they get at the end of the year.
It would have to be UCLA. It'd have to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah,
UCLA at home.
You get the Iowa win and Oregon win, though. Yeah, you're right back up there. If you're a 2-loss team, I think you're in. I think they should be in. A 2-loss Big Ten team should probably be in anytime, especially if you're 2-loss.
You want to talk about follow the money? Yeah. USC is
the LA money.
Just USC's appeal, just for whether you like them or you hate them, it doesn't matter. People are going to tune in. People are going to want to watch them. With Lincoln Riley, especially all the hot seat talk going into the season, he makes the playoff. There's so many narratives and storylines to go down that we're going to have to unpack over these next couple weeks.
Yeah, no, I agree. I will mention this. I think there is a way. It takes a lot of funky business for it to happen. But I think there is a way that Texas Tech gets the Big 12 gets 3 teams into this field. But it's going to take some funky business. It's going to take BYU and Texas Tech being 2 of those. And I see a way, if Notre Dame loses, I see a way of the committee saying, okay, well, the conversation becomes Texas, Oklahoma, or Utah, and Utah being that conversation piece of saying, we understand they play in a conference like the Big 12 that's not the SEC, but if you get some funky business in the SEC, you get a Texas loss here and an Oklahoma loss here.
Well, Oklahoma plays Alabama still, right?
Oklahoma has a tough schedule to end the year.
Yeah. I mean, that absolutely can happen. And, man, how about that? If we get 3 from the Big 12.
Yeah. The concern is Utah's final schedule is Baylor, Kansas State, Kansas. They don't have a chance to put another big win on their record. But, I mean, they beat Arizona State when they were 21st in the nation. They mollywopped Cincinnati when they were 17th. Sorry. Hey, I picked them. So I should be the one that feels bad about it because I picked them to win. But I think there's a way. It's going to take some juggling, but it's a very big conversation piece between Texas, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, and Utah for that final spot. And if you're asking me, I'm taking Utah because, again, it's that head-to-head piece. And you're saying, okay, the other two Big 12 teams that would be in the field are Utah's 2 losses in Texas Tech and BYU. That's a conversation piece versus Notre Dame's 2 losses are Texas A&M and Miami, one of which is in the field and one's not. Or Texas and Oklahoma, who may not even be in this conversation, depending on how their schedule goes. I think there's a way we still see 3 Big 12 teams. I think there is.
Do you think the committee will hold?
ACC, though, right? No way we get 2 ACC.
With the amount of chaos that could happen, maybe.
Because
I think you get one or the other.
Do we know the tiebreaker between Louisville and, like, right now, what would the ACC title game be? Would it be Virginia, Louisville playing each other?
I believe it is. I'm going to pull it up and see. I think it would be
because
Virginia,
if Georgia Tech were to win out, that means they beat Georgia.
Yeah, right now, conference tiebreaker would give it to Georgia Tech. So it'd be Virginia and Georgia Tech.
Okay, then Louisville's 15.
Yeah. But you also have Pitt. You have Pitt ahead of Louisville too, just based off of just based on the fact that Pitt's 5-1 and Louisville's 4-1. But
yeah,
I think you're going to get one or the other. I think you're either going to get 3 Big 12 teams or 2 ACC teams, but I don't think you're going to be able to pull off both.
Oh yeah,
I kind of want to see 2 ACC teams.
Could get a second ACC.
I think it could easily happen. The way the schedules are, I think it could happen.
We all let Notre Dame hang around, and they're going to be the one to throw the wrench in everything. They're going to get
Notre Dame's going to win the championship.
Yeah, but
this year, just because of everything.
This might not be their matchup, but it's similar to last year. They get a BYU team, and then they go and have to play Indiana again. I at least hope Cignetti shows up this time, and IU can actually do something there. Because if I got to deal with another Ohio State Notre Dame national championship, I quit. I'm done. You'll never hear me talk college football again.
I think
maybe we need that to happen.
I think the easiest route, if you're talking 2 ACC teams, is you're talking Virginia and Louisville. Because you look, Georgia Tech still has to play Georgia, and they still have to play Notre Dame, and they still have to play Miami. And then Pitt, still has to play. Pitt has to play Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami, and then Georgia Tech still has to play Pitt and Georgia. So you look, Virginia's schedule is pretty lightweight, aside from traveling to Durham to play Duke.
We've talked about Duke at home, though. So, yeah. But any given Saturday, yeah. I mean, honestly, we've talked about Duke's struggles at home, but the pressure is on Virginia at this point, as we talked about last week. They've been playing with fire lately, and you can only do that for so long before it starts to bite you at some point.
Yeah, we saw them struggle for a majority of the game against Cal, and it took a miraculous pick 6 to put the game away.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun end to this season. Just before we get out of here, just quickly looking at the potential matchups that we would have in the first round. I mean, there's some intriguing one. The Texas Tech Oregon game would be fun. That would be awesome. Ole Miss Virginia.
I think Ole Miss would wax them.
I think so too. But Virginia's defense could keep them in the game.
The BYU Notre Dame is the one I'd be most excited about. Could the freshmen go in there? You get the Mormons versus the Catholics. Can you imagine the storylines of that alone? And also you got a Notre Dame team. Yes, they're used to playing the cold. Boys, that game will be in Utah in December. Yes. Oh. Nobody talking about that yet, but that is a big, big thing. Right now we got a warm area. That BYU have an advantage of the cold. You don't know what could happen.
Also, if just looking at this, and we saw this play out last year, I feel like you don't want to be the number 1 seed.
No, because you're looking at Texas Tech and their defense, or
Oregon.
You're looking at Oregon, who any given Saturday, And then after that, once you survive that, you're looking at an SEC standout.
Dan Lanning does not forget.
I'm just saying, like, we saw it play out last year. I don't know if it benefits a team to be the number 1 seed in the way the bracket is. Just not even just the teams, just the 8-9 matchup. That is such a tough. I don't know. We saw it play out last year that way, and I think it's going to do the same thing this year. I'm not saying that the 8-9 is going to beat whoever comes in at 1, but it's a tougher game in my opinion.
I'll tell you now. Ohio State fans won't admit it, but if they see Oregon in that 8-9 matchup, they will be a little bit worried.
Yeah,
Oregon and then what? Alabama right after potentially, or Georgia?
Whoever's in my opinion, it would be the SEC runner-up probably.
So Alabama or Georgia. So Ohio State, in order to just even get kind of near the championship game again, would have to take down Oregon and one of the SEC teams.
Yeah,
that's what you're looking at.
That would be a hell of a run for the Buckeyes if they
on a neutral field.
Yeah,
agreed.
That would be a hell of a ride for the Buckeyes. But before we get out of here, guys, anything else you want to talk about? Anything that you want to discuss? I mean, we'll be back on Thursday for our regular scheduled show at 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Anything you want to talk about? Any last minute things you want to bring up?
I will mention this. Make sure you tune in to that show, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, because I've got a fraud of the week that is on this bracket, and you're going to want to see who and why.
He is perfect, friends. He is absolutely perfect.
He did get. I will say this before the show starts, Josh. We are still tied, so you have not officially blown your full lead yet. So, but we will talk more about that on Thursday. But just want to thank everyone for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like this video. We thank everyone for their support. We are truly appreciative, and we will see you on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern time for the other edition of the TWSN Tailgate Show. We'll see you then.
This is TWSN.